Hello. So, you are nervous about the upcoming Unit 1 test. It's perhaps the first ACE level test you've taken. Certainly the first big test in this class. So let me give to you the most successful way that I have known to study in my 22 plus years of being an educator for virtually any assessment, okay? It may not work for 100% of the assessments, like some art or math, I don't know. It depends on how much vocabulary there is or whatever, but this class is very vocabulary oriented, and this goes for biology honors too. So both classes, very vocabulary oriented, very concept oriented. Okay. Now the difference between ACE and Bio, ACE Marine and Bio is in ACE Marine the concepts are applied. We learn them and then apply them. In Bio honors, it's an easier course. We just learn the concepts. We don't necessarily have to apply them to anything. So regardless, this will help you. Okay, this is called the Leitner method, and it's using different boxes with flashcards. Okay, and we're going to talk about what all that means right now. So how do the flashcards work? Well, flashcards, you might be used to them in some way. I'm going to show you how perhaps you were needing to use them better, okay? So flashcards work well, they do. Why? Because they help you to not only memorize facts quickly, but to process and store the information over a long period of time. You see, your brain can more easily retain that information because when you use flashcards, you're triggering it to use the skills that I'm about to show you, okay? When you use them correctly. There's something called active recall. So let's say you just read a chapter in a textbook. That's like one of the worst homework assignments, right? I don't have my students do that. Can you remember everything that you read from that reading? The answer is no. You know it is. You know it is. Probably not. That's because when we read something passively, not actively, our brains are not being forced to think. But when we have to answer questions, our brains are triggered to take action. So by using flashcards correctly, our brains are constantly stimulated to be on active recall for that information. Okay? It stays in your memory for a longer period of time. There's something called metacognition, and that's thinking about thinking. Right? Thinking about your brain's thinking about itself, brain. So when you make your own flashcards, don't use somebody else's. That's taking out an entire piece of the pie that makes the whole thing work. You have to make your own flashcards. You take control of your own learning. You have to decide what to put on each card, how often you're going to use them, and then evaluate how well you know the information on each card in some way. Just by doing them all in one stack at one time, putting them down and then putting them away, that's not enough. There has to be something more. You have to practice this metacognitive process, thinking about how you're going to think, thinking about how you're going to learn. Whoa, too far. Drilling, okay? So practice makes perfect, right? That's essentially what that whole thing is. Information over and over again, and I'll show you how that's done very easily. So when you're making your flashcards, you can, if you want to, make them for Unit 1, but I'm not going to force you to do it on Unit 1, okay? However, for every unit thereafter, we will be making flashcards and I will be collecting them as a grade, okay? All right, and so it's going to be based on this. This is posted on Google Classroom. You can always go back and look at this. I also have handouts that I'm going to send home via electronically. I also have some hard copies here too, but I don't have enough for everybody. They're there just kind of for reference on this whole thing, all right? And some other test-taking skills. So you're going to be using index cards, not flimsy paper, not flimsy notebook paper or anything like that. They have to be sturdy so they can be used over and over again, all right? And plus, you don't want to be able to see through it if you're using, you don't want to be able to see the answer through when you're holding it up. Keep your surfaces, of the writing as simple and as possible, as short as possible, okay? So instead, like for example, if you're studying world capitals, you're not going to write, what is the capital of Russia, okay? Simply write the country's name, Russia, and then you'll know that you're working on capitals, so you flip it over, okay? Writing clearly, so really fast at a glance, you can see and then go quickly through it. Some people do not use flashcards to study essay type questions, and we have those in ACE Marine, not in biology, so you biology kids don't have to worry about that. But one question per card. Every year I see people squeezing more than one thing on a card. You flip it over and you see the answer to the next question. Even though you're trying not to, it's there, so you can't do that. And then using different colored cards for different subjects, different units, different parts of the unit, different sub topics in the unit, or vocab could be one color, and then concepts could be another color, and equations could be another color. So how do you use your flashcards? Okay, so research, scientific research has shown the best methods are using what I'm about to show you now, okay? For last minute cramming, it's no. They do not work. They may get you through the test, but it's not going to be an excellent score. And when you walk out the door, you're not going to remember anything. Because even though you have a Unit 1 test coming up, or a Unit 2 test in the future, you're going to see that information again on the midterm and on the EOC at the end of the year for bio ACE papers for Marine. We have 4 ACE papers, 4 different sections of testing in April and May. So I don't know the dates yet, but once I know them, I'll put them up on the board. What I'm trying to say is you're going to need this information all year, okay? So you don't want to walk out the door and have forgotten it all. So cramming never works well enough. I'm not going to say it never works to get you a passing grade on the test, because many of you are aware of it, that it does. So it may seem ideal to carry your flashcards with you wherever you go and study them, a few of them, when you get a chance, like at lunch or in between class, on the way to class, if you're really dedicated. But believe it or not, that's not the most effective way, okay? Studies have found the more effective way is to review a whole stack of cards in one sitting. Yeah. Using something called spaced repetition, which I'm about to teach you. So it's one of the most effective ways of using it. So this is when you review your cards at a specific increasing intervals. For example, day 1, day 2, 4, 8, and so on. Spaced repetition works because it activates that long-term memory, and that's what we want to do to be successful in any class, not just Mr. Keene's class. This is good for any class. I'm going to learn more about that right now. All right, so this is called the Leitner system. Very well known, very effective. I swear by it. My story is, my personal story that I can share with you that this worked for me. 6 years ago, I got a new job at a new school teaching chemistry, honors chemistry, high school level honors chemistry in Tampa. Now, I had never taught honors chemistry before, okay? I'd been teaching for 15 years, 16 years. I had never taught honors chemistry. I have a minor in chemistry from Hofstra University in New York from 1997. That's the last time I learned any chemistry, okay? So how am I supposed to pass the teacher test? You have to pass a test on the material to become a teacher of that material. I don't know if you're aware of that, but anyway. So how was I supposed to pass the teacher's test if I hadn't seen this stuff in 15 years? So what did I do? I gathered and organized a whole bunch of cards. I mean, it was a big stack, okay, like this. And I used the Leitner method for a month before my big test. I went into the testing facility. I don't even remember where it was. Blocked it out of my memory because it was too nerve-wracking. And talked to some other people as we were coming in because there were other teachers there from around the whole county. Some of them had said they were there for the third time trying to pass this test. So now I'm freaking out, right? Well, I sit down, take the test. A few days later, I get the email, you passed. I'm like, because they don't tell you what your score is. It's either pass or fail. So I'm like, well, the Leitner cards worked. They must have worked. Because I was talking to people who had been there for the third time, and they had just graduated college. So that chemistry stuff was still fresh in their brains, and they weren't passing the test. So I can attest to the test-taking Leitner method preparation system that it works. If you use it, it will work every single time. If you use it for real, it will work every single time, okay? Now, those of you who are nervous on tests, poor test takers, did poorly on that first 15-question quiz, you really have to pay attention to this method. And the rest of you, it'll help you across the board, okay? So, simple example. So you're going to have at least 3 boxes. I want everybody to have at least 3 boxes. They could be shoe boxes, they could be labeled Ziploc bags. I used Cards Against Humanity boxes, the little ones. I don't know if you've ever played that game. It's kind of a rough game, but my family, my son's 24 years old, and he plays it with his friends. So he had the whole kit, and he had little boxes that were empty, and I used those. They were perfect for my 3 boxes because the cards fit right inside them. Okay, and then I'll go over example how to. Yeah, so they have to be labeled. All right. So you need to stack your flashcards, and then your stack of flashcards and your 3 boxes. You're going to label each box with a number or the day of the week that you're going to, the frequency, right? I labeled mine 1, 2, and 3. It was very simple. Here are the examples every day, Tuesday and Thursday and Friday. So I just did box 1, 2, and 3, and I labeled them that. And then you're going to review your cards based upon that schedule of spaced repetition. So here's how you do it. So day 1, okay? You put all your cards in day 1. They're in there, okay? And then you review them. You pull out a card, okay? If you get that card right, it goes into box 2. If you get it wrong, it goes back into the back of box 1. Pretty simple, right? Day 2, and this is the diagram I'm going to go over in a minute, so don't keep your eyes on that just yet. You're going to review box 1, just like on the first day. And you're going to move the correct cards to box 2 and incorrect cards back into box 1, okay? Day 3, you're going to review box 1 again. Any cards you get right go into box 2. Any cards that get wrong stay in box 1. Then you're going to review box 2. In box 2, if you get a card right, it goes to box 3. If you get it wrong, it goes back to box 1. Does that make sense? Okay? But you shouldn't get it wrong by the time it's in box 2. And then continue on with that process until all of your cards are in box 3. Then you know it. Then you can actually put them away and say, I'm ready for the test tomorrow, next Thursday, next week. You don't have to study anymore. It's called studying smarter, not harder. Okay? So if you're looking at this, so you start at session, let's wait till it gets back to recycle itself. You may have been looking at it, but so here we go. Session 1. So you look at your cards. Any ones that are wrong, go back in. Any ones right, go into 2. Session 2. Any of these that are right get moved over to 2, and are wrong, go back, okay? Session 3, now you're doing the 3rd box, and any ones that are wrong, right, stay there, wrong, go all the way back to box 1, okay? Because that must be a tough subject or a tough word or tough concept for you, okay? And you need more time with that one. Okay, so once all of your cards have left box 1, essentially they're all in box 3 at that point, okay? Your studying is done, like I said, time for your test, all right? And that is the Leitner method. And I'm going to be saying Leitner method over and over again. And you're going to be jokingly saying Leitner method over and over again because it's so important and I'm going to push it all year. All right? There's going to be flashcards all over this room on some days because it's flashcard day and you're going to be working on your flashcards. So your job, your homework essentially now is to go get a bunch of flashcards. 1,000 to start. Okay? It's like $10. I don't know, whatever. Not even. Just go to Staples, go to Walmart, go to wherever you go to get your office needs, okay? And that's the Leitner method.